Welcome to Saturday's Warrior. This is the last part of a longer conversation that I had with WildUte breaking down potential homes for the ACC if it implodes. If you haven't already, please go check out the first two videos either before or after watching this one. And also, while we generally cover a lot of BYU and Big 12 stuff, we also like to do a lot of conference realignment stuff. So if that's what you're interested in, please consider giving us a like and subscribe. It really helps a lot. But also, do not forget to go check out WildUte and all of his content. They do some really good stuff. They cover a lot on college realignment, and you can get his stuff down in the description below. Now, without further ado, let's jump to it. Members, now we get to Notre Dame, who is just
fighting Irish.
Yes. What happens with them? Is this next wave of realignment that we all expect going to be enough to finally get Notre Dame to join a conference?
Yeah, that's a great question right there. And that does change the percentages. So, let's back up for a little bit. If they do go to a conference, it's going to be the Big Ten. I'm 99% sure that's the case, right? 99% sure and 1% sure the SEC. But will Notre Dame actually make the move to leave independence? That's a tough one. I'm thinking I'm going to say 51% yes to the big right here, Big Ten. And then I'll say 1% to the SEC. And that leaves a 48% for the other, and that means that they're going to remain independent. I think it's so. Yeah, put that over in the other column if you wouldn't mind. That
sorry, for independent. Sorry, yeah, and then one for.
So 0 in the rebuild ACC, 0 in the Big 12, and then 48% and remaining independent. I think there's a possibility that it happens, but the walls are crashing in on the Fighting Irish with this new ruling in the Dartmouth case, where student athletes are going to be considered employees once that leaves appeal. I think that Notre Dame is going to be in trouble. They're going to have to be in a situation where they can negotiate at the conference level just to help the school out. I think it's going to push them over the edge to jump into the Big Ten. But it's not like a no-brainer. So I say 51% Big Ten, 48% independent.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think it is pushing them more and more. I gave SEC a slightly bigger chance just because there's a lot of money with the SEC and a lot of great brands. But if they're going to join anybody, it always made sense with the Big Ten just geographically and with the amount of rivals they have there. And then as the Big Ten continues to add additional rivals, you now have USC in conference. There's a chance Miami and Stanford, some of their other rivals, end up in the Big Ten. At that point, you basically have all of your rivals in that conference, which was your reason before. It's like, well, we want to be able to play anybody anywhere, but all the teams you're playing are already in that conference. It might even be higher than 60. And then I'm with you. There's really not a chance that they would join the ACC. Their other would be stay independent and have some sort of deal with one of whether it's the ACC or maybe they do their other sports in the Big Ten or whatever deal. Although I don't know if the Big Ten wants to play like that, but you know what I mean? I think some other form of independence is that, I don't know, 30%, something like that. But yeah, I think if they do end up joining a conference, it in all likelihood will be the Big Ten. There's really no reason for them to hold out anymore, unless there's just such, bad blood from, this dragging out over the years.
I think they'll take them no matter what. Yeah, the bad blood aside, it's like, hey, come on in.
Yeah, I mean, how hard would you really play? I think anybody would do whatever it took to get Notre Dame. And now we get – go ahead.
Yeah, so let's talk about Stanford. So Stanford, the new ad for the ACC, the Big Ten just skipped over Stanford, didn't invite them. The Pac-12 fell apart. Okay, so they're in a kind of a tough position here. So I'm going to say with Stanford, I still think that there's a chance they get in the Big Ten, just based on the brand and the academics and the strong academics or athletics across the board. Maybe not football, but just across the board, solid. I'm going to say there's a 30% chance they get in the Big Ten still. And then for the SEC, Stanford 0. That leaves a rebuilt ACC. I want to say 50-50. That they remain in whatever iteration of the ACC exists. So
Okay.
if you throw 50% in the rebuilt ACC for Stanford,
All right. And then, is that what you're saying?
0, 0. So with the rebuilt ACC, it's put the 50%. I think it's 50%
Oh, you
likely.
mean 50? Oh, okay. You said 50. I thought you meant split between what's left. Okay. So 50% they end up in the rebuilt ACC.
And then in the other, I think there's a 20%, meaning they might just join the Pac-12 again.
Yeah. Yeah. Some iteration of that. Yeah. I'm with you
Yeah.
on that. So I had 25 for the Big Ten, essentially the same. I think there's still they fit in a lot of ways. So if the Big Ten still wants to add that way, no for the SEC. 20% chance that's ACC. I don't know if it depends on who's left. If they're big enough brands,
Yeah.
I could see, them doing kind of this private school. You get a lot of these, schools that fit maybe culturally in that regard, and they all kind of join together, or kind of academic schools. Big 12, this is less than zero. Big 12 didn't even like engage with them this last time around, so I don't know why they would going forward unless they just really wanted to get into California or something. So that there's still that, just not a fit culturally at all. There's just many reasons why it wouldn't happen, but I left the door open for them. And then let's see. So I guess I'm at 54% there for other, whatever that is, a rebuilt Pac-12 or whatever happens out west, or maybe they start their own conference or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Cal, do you see them being much different, or are their fates pretty much tied?
Closely tied, just less attractive. So I'm going to say 5% for the Big Ten,
Mm-hmm.
0% for the SEC,
Mm-hmm.
50% for the rebuilt ACC,
Okay.
0% for the Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking here at 45% now for the other, which would be some type of Pac-12 iteration again. And I just think there's more of a likelihood that they end up in that spot than Stanford, because Stanford has a stronger brand.
Yeah, yeah. I just feel like if Stanford were going to continue to do an East Coast sort of thing, or a nationwide conference, that they'd want a travel league partner. And even though Cal maybe makes less sense in some regards, that they'd be able to swing that. But I'm with you. I say there's still a chance to get in the Big Ten. I put them a little bit less, saying again less attractive, and so I guess that's how I show that they were down by 1%. But essentially the same. I mean, I guess they're just not a fit for the Big 12. But I guess I left the foot in the door open for them. But essentially the same as Stanford, like you said, just a little bit less attractive. And then SMU, the guys who are paying their way to be here. If it all falls apart, where do they end up?
Yeah, so SMU is a interesting one. Not there's 0% shot they get in the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
SEC 0, rebuilt ACC 95, 0 for the Big 12, and a 5% for the other.
What do you think that other would be?
The American.
Going back with their tail
Going back to
between
the
their legs?
American. Yes, or else maybe if the Pac-12 rebuilt and they looked really attractive and they started going after the likes of Tulane and folks down south, then maybe they get invited to like the Pac-12. But there's some chance that could happen, but they're probably going to stay in the ACC no matter what.
Yeah, I think they're committed to the ACC and they want to make it work. And I think they fit with a lot of the schools, especially even those that could be getting left behind. And so it could be really attractive, especially let's say like Duke is still there. You have some reasons to stay behind. I think there is a slightly bigger chance that they could end up in Big 12, and I only say that in the case that the Big 12 starts getting rated. And let's say TCU was talked about to the Pac-12 at one point, and if these conferences, get big enough, these big two, and they keep going, and they want more in Texas or whatever, does somebody else get grabbed and snagged, and they say, you know what, now we need to, we want to continue to strengthen our hold in the Big 12. So let's go after SMU. And then at that point, is SMU saying, hey, no, you guys kept passing over us, but I think there'd be enough financial reasons to actually join the Big 12. Although I don't know, the Big 12 might not have to pay them that much, considering they're paying their own way into the ACC. And then the remaining, I think, whether it's the American or Pac-12, whatever, I think there might be other options for them. So I think they have a few options, but yeah, it would not be great for SMU if the ACC falls apart. But
no, it's not going to be great for them.
So I think directionally, like our numbers are pretty different in many regards, but I think directionally, I think they show kind of our same sentiment, more or less, on a lot of these schools. So it's certainly going to be interesting to see how it all plays out now. And I don't want to steal from all these other videos that you're doing, but what do you think that we did it school by school? But what do you think is going to be the most likely scenario, and how do you see it playing out for everybody, like big picture?
Yeah, look at the percentages right here. Look at what's above 50% on each of these columns. So for the Big Ten, FSU, Clemson, Miami, Notre Dame. Those are the four. That's the four I see moving over to the Big Ten. ACC, UNC, and UVA, above that 50% likelihood. I see those two moving over to the SEC. And then you're looking at the rebuilt ACC, every school that's showing up with more or at 50% in the case of Stanford and Cal are going to remain in the ACC. And same thing goes for the Big 12. I think the Big 12 lands the four schools that we were talking about: Virginia Tech, Louisville, Pitt, and NC State. I think those are the four that are going to jump over. I think those four bring the most value in the ACC for the Big 12 as far as likely candidates. Of course, Florida State, Clemson, and Miami and UNC would be great value adds for the Big 12, just not realistic. Like, we got to be honest about this kind of stuff. I just don't see it happening. Those are no-brainer ads. But basically, this tells the story of kind of where I think it's going to shake out. I don't think the other factor is going to be a huge player in this at the end of the day. I think there's going to be three conferences that really stand as major super conferences. And I think the Big 12 is going to raid off the ACC in the way that you're seeing right here. And they're going to become the third super conference. And so there's going to be an A3 in the future, the 5-7 year future. And right there with the broken out percentages, the SEC, if they added UNC and UVA, they'd be sitting at 18 teams. It's going to be interesting to see if it's a value add to get up to 20. It's hard to see where they're bringing in a lot of extra value to get two more schools to reduce the media payouts for all the existing members. I just don't see it, honestly. It's going to be an interesting one. And then with the Big Ten, I'd put them at 22 schools, but I think all these schools actually bring value, enough value that you're actually enhancing the pie and you're making it a super juggernaut conference. I could see it totally happening. And again, the Big 12 lists up to 20 schools with the addition of NC State, Virginia Tech, Louisville, and Pitt.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great case. It's you're not alone in thinking this, and these are kind of the most some of the most common talked about scenarios. So it'll be very interesting. Obviously, I'm not excited to see another long-standing conference be torn apart. However, I am excited to think that the Big 12 can come out stronger from it, and excited to see what happens there with them. But in the case of the rebuilt ACC, you just see them rating the American or whoever's left and just trying to kind of do the best of the rest and whatever they can, like a Tulane or Memphis or something.
Bingo. Yeah. South Florida is a no-brainer candidate. Once you lose FSU and Miami, you need to get back in the state of Florida. That's your first go right there. Tulane's a no-brainer add to pair with SMU, and then you're looking hard at Oregon State and Wazoo. You're probably adding those guys. You're considering San Diego State at that point to rebuild. So I think that's what's going to happen. And I think that conference is going to survive. I think that conference is going to be the fourth strongest conference and probably warrant somewhere under 20 million in annual revenue distributions.
Fascinating stuff. Well, we will see how this all plays out. Why don't you go ahead and plug all your stuff? Where can we find you and all your great content?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm part of the College Football Mafia team. Currently, we are working on a series called WildUte University, where we're examining Big Ten candidates and a lot of the ones that we've talked about right here, looking at them on an individual basis to see how they stack rank in the Big Ten. And also the new Big 12 candidates. There's a new model recently developed for the Big 12 where we're going to be applying to Pac-2, and also the teams that you're looking at right here on this list to see if they're a good fit for the Big 12 and who is and who isn't. So we just have more data around it to know when we're applying our thinking and logic in our conversations. Like, hey, what's the truth? What's fake out there? Like, what's smoke? What's real? And what's not? So, yeah, WildUte University on the College Football Mafia YouTube channel. That's where you can find me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining. This was fun to go through all this and get your insights. And please like this video and subscribe, and then go check out all of his stuff and like and subscribe. Follow him. Tons of good stuff there. And also be sure to let us know what you think in the comments on how you see all this playing out. Do you think this scenario that you highlighted here for us is a likely one, or what do you think will happen? What do you want to see happen? Please let us know in the comments. And as always, thanks, man, and go Cougs.
Go Utes.
I can't leave this in.